Hello, this is Dr. Jason Munsell. I am back. It is about 2:30 Tuesday afternoon. I am now going to cover chapter 10. And I thought this would be a good, even though it's the last chapter in the book, even though there is an epilogue, I thought it would be good to talk about this, in part because it frames the nature of this class. Making the classroom great again. This chapter is actually called The Courage to Teach Critically, Anti-Oppression and Pro-Justice Dialogues in the Classroom. I do love the quote from Bell Hooks. If you don't know who Bell Hooks is, she's a very famous academic, race scholar, feminist scholar. She writes this: "The classroom remains the most radical space of possibility in the academy. For years, it has been a place where education has been undermined by teachers and students alike, who seek to use it as a platform for opportunistic concerns rather than as a place to actually learn. Urging all of us to open our minds and hearts so that we can know beyond the boundaries of what is acceptable, so that we can think and rethink, so that we can create new visions. I celebrate teaching that enables transgressions, the movement against and beyond boundaries. It is that movement which makes education the practice of freedom." That's pretty good. By the way, Bell Hooks, if you don't, she does not capitalize her pen name. I think because her pen name is different from her given name, and her pen name is her great-grandmother or something like that. So she wanted to differentiate that from her great-grandmother, but also she didn't want to call attention to herself as author. Wanted to, the content is more important than the sender. But in any case, so buttons are hot. Buttons are hot. Folks is scared. So it's hard to talk about some of these hot button issues. Fear of controversy, backlash. If you say something, maybe you'll get on Fox News or something. I shouldn't have said that. I'll be on Fox News. There is this anti-teacher discourse out there. School funding. So basically, a lot of what happens in the schools, and this is mainly targeted, I think this is about like public and private sort of elementary and secondary education, not necessarily college, but obviously we still use this. There's this idea that obviously we should just teach the facts, but that begs the question, where do those facts come from, blah, 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 blah. And nothing is neutral. Everything is in a sense biased. Most of the stuff that we teach in our schools obviously is biased from a Eurocentric point of view. And then all these folks who are saying don't teach social blah blah blah. And it's just crazy. There's theories out there, communication theories, sociological theories about all this type of stuff. Teaching people to fight against oppression is not politics. It's just the way it's life. But in any case, so basically one of the things that they say, or she says, Rita here, Verma, we're in a culture where we sort of teach these textbooks, and also that we teach the test. But the textbook themselves are sort of biased, doesn't really dig deep, and so what we need to do in our classrooms as teachers and students is to figure out life lessons. So teaching life lessons from multiple perspectives, or teaching multiple perspectives to teach life lessons, is very, very important. And so basically education from this point of view is not just about teaching people stuff, but teaching people to question stuff, to be agents of change, which is cool and is important, and something that I hold deeply, or an idea, perspective I hold deeply. Though the context of this chapter is this is written by an education professor talking about or writing about stuff that she does to teach, folks in education, folks who are in elementary ed or secondary ed or anything like that. But again, I think it's relevant for our purposes because, in a sense, a lot of the philosophical stuff about critical literacy, critical pedagogy, and all that type of stuff is what is governing my own pedagogy in this class. They throw out big terms. A lot of you probably know some of these terms already. Some of you might not. Hegemony, the larger framework from hegemony to self-reflection. What is hegemony? I'll define hegemony here. Hegemony is basically a process. It's this idea that certain dominant ideologies are privileged over other ideologies. What is an ideology? It's just a framework of certain values and ideas and everything like that. And this idea that things are just natural or neutral is never the case. Is capitalism the best form of the best economic system? A lot of people think so, right? That's just the way it is. It's anti-American if you're not. But we learned that. And any sort of process that privileges capitalism is a process of hegemony. And so these things, whatever they are, become naturalized. That is, we think it's just natural. It's just common sense. It's just natural that marriage should be between a man and a woman. Who says? Well, that says there. I saw it on TV. Maybe, what if that wasn't? What if the opposite was natural? Then you go, ooh, look at that man and that woman kissing. That's gross. Yuck. But we need to understand there's no hegemony committee. That is, it's all sort of insidious. It's all sort of all over the place. We are complacent in a lot of ways to it without thinking about it. We can bemoan, economic inequality, and if we're feeling bad about things, we'll do some retail therapy. That might include buying stuff that was made at a sweatshop, which just sort of continues the cycle of economic inequality. So we just need to understand all of that stuff. That's part of the first point. And to think that and realize that some of the things that we think are natural, and this is just the way it is, ain't just the way it is. Rita, is that right? Rita gives a lot of pretty good examples post 9/11 about how, particularly in the media, how Muslims or Muslim-looking people were portrayed as the enemy, and we still have that, right? I mean, I think given the recent terrorist attack in Manchester and then London and who knows, but we learn things like fear, right? Fear is learned for the most part. So think if you are on a plane and you are white or not a person of color, or even if you see somebody who you think is perhaps Muslim, you go, ooh, uh-oh. That's hegemony. That's Islamophobia. And it's very, very problematic. We have to change these cycles. So the big point of all of this is that in classrooms, to boil it down, we need to interrupt stereotypes, because stereotypes are learned in the first place. And so all the outrage that we see about these terrorist attacks and sort of equating, a religion with terrorism, it's that's all learned. I mean, it's just, and the media doesn't pay attention to, things, and then people, if it bleeds, it leads. They love to reaffirm our biased belief that the people that look like that are going to hurt us. But in any case, so we need to basically break the stereotypes, understand stereotypes, break the stereotypes, and that's the idea here. And so, the idea of the core, I don't know if she's mentioning, or it might have been before Common Core, but basically she's saying that any idea that there is or should be some sort of neutral curriculum in the schools is just problematic, because there is no neutral. Even science is not neutral. Scientists might say it is neutral, but a scientific perspective, and it's all from a certain ideological, cultural point of view. So part of what Rita is saying is that we need to, in our classrooms, be teaching people about different ethnic backgrounds, different perspectives, because that could be helpful. Makes sense to me. Critical literacy, that's sort of what she's getting at. She's sort of vague. She talks about, Kenneth Burke, Michel Foucault, Raymond Williams. She loves all these folks. But basically the idea of having critical literacy is just thinking critically about, who we are, about history, about where we come from, and understanding stereotypes and trying to challenge stereotypes. The key point that punctuates the dialogue in my class is the need to start from within and become self-reflective about the things we say and do. And that, in part, is critical pedagogy. If you don't know what pedagogy is, just sort of the processes of teaching. So basically, and also she indicates that oftentimes teachers themselves aren't self-aware and just sort of sustain oppression, which is very, very problematic. So, given that, what should we be doing? Listening to Journey. Don't stop believing in self-reflective journeys. We got to reflect. That's what she says. Particularly those who are going to be teachers. We need to be wide awake, full of coffee. I read an article this morning that says coffee is really good for you, obviously, but some folks say that too much coffee is too, obviously you don't want to, have an IV of coffee, but coffee is good. Cleans the liver. It cleans the kidneys out. This is my brain right here. Oh, okay. So we need to understand how our own views have been constructed, how we see the world, or why we see the world that way. How it is not blended, blended within social, political, and cultural context. Where does all this stuff come from? Why do I think education is important? Why do I want money? Why do I think that having a nice car is cool? Why do I run 3 miles a day? Why do I enjoy Stormblood Final Fantasy? Why does Hardee's have what is cross promotion? Delicious iced tea. So we need to understand ourselves, become wide awake,